I'm just gonna say that and then just let it hang, because I'm approaching this with the mentality that I'm doing this for science. My scientific mind is really, really interested in what's gonna go on with this dragon. So for science, I've been reading this. Pretty sure I like gasped, and my boyfriend's like, what? What happened? I said, he has 2. I don't know if you can tell, my face is getting warmer and I'm turning, like, I'm blushing. I am not the person to be doing this. I'm reconsidering this entire vlog. Hi. So, at the time of filming this intro, it's actually Valentine's Day right now. So, my boyfriend's in the shower and I figured I would film this little intro and probably the outro that's going to surround all of the clips I've been filming as I've been reading my first set of romance books. I decided that since romance isn't really a genre that I read too much of, this year I wanted to focus on it and read a little bit more. And by that, I meant any. I decided that since there are so many books out there and I don't really know what I like, it would be a good idea if I broke things down into the tropes. So I know there are like a billion different romance tropes, and I'm gonna cover as many of them as I can, but little by little, because I wanna make sure that I'm giving each one like thorough investigation. There are going to be some things that I just know I'm not into, so stuff like age gap romances and things like that, no offense, not shaming anybody, but that's not for me. I'm probably not going to read those as like the main trope. If that's something that happens in like a different trope in a book that was recommended for something else, fine, but it's not something I'm actively going to seek out. There are a couple things like that, but we'll discuss it as we go. For this first video, since we're kind of like easing into this a little bit, I thought I would do myself a little bit of a favor by branching off from things that I do normally read. So for this one, we are heavily focusing on fantasy. I'm going to be reading 3 books in the monster category, and they are 3 novellas. They're all by the same author, so I don't know if that's cheating, but I figure it'll help me figure out if that's what I like or not. Do I like tentacles? Do I like dragons? We're gonna find out. The other thing that I'm going to be reading is strictly kind of like fantasy based. So I'm going to be doing 2 books for that, and those are going to be Legends and Lattes, and I am finally going to be reading something that I know everybody else has already, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I've somehow managed to hold off on reading that series this whole time. I actually haven't read the other one either. I think Throne of Glass or something. I own the first book in both series because they were sent to me, older editions that are like covers that are not even out anymore, but I've been holding on to them. I haven't read them. I'm going to be reading A Court of Thorns and Roses for this. I'm actually like a little bit nervous because I'm not sure if I'm gonna like it or not. I know that that one has to do with like fairy people, I think, like the fae, so that's something that I am into, but I don't know how it's gonna work in like this sort of setting. I also do understand that neither of these are like pure romance books in the same way that like an Emily Henry book or something would be, who I haven't read but I've read about. But again, we're just dipping our toes in for this first video, so we're figuring out my taste as we go, and we're starting soft. Well, I say soft, but again, tentacles. So wish me luck, and here we go. And also, I know it's after by the time you see this, but hope you had a good Valentine's Day. Hello. Okay, so we're doing my first vlog or reading vlog, which is for romance, and as many of these as I watch, you would think that I would know how to start this, but it still feels really awkward, so I'm gonna be starting with these books. I talked about them in my TBR. I don't think I explained what they were about, but I kind of want to go into them blind because, as you can see, they are extremely short, and I feel like if I know too much about what they're about, it'll like, I don't know, ruin it or spoil it or something, so I'd prefer to go into it without knowing anything. So I'm not even reading the back, I'm just going to read them. For each one, I will check back in. I'm probably going to do it over the course of tonight and then tomorrow as well, because I have a couple of other things to do tonight, so we'll see. But I'm starting with the first one, which I actually found out there's another one coming out soon about gargoyles, and the cover for that one's like very purpley and pretty, and I really want it, but it's not out yet, so This is the first one I'm going to be reading, The Dragon's Bride. Also, I don't think I actually said, but these are by Katie Robert. I think I'll probably check in after each book and not in between, like in the middle of the book or anything like that, because they're too short to really stop. I'll probably read each one through a single sitting. So I will be back after I finish this. Okay, so it's the next morning. I did not finish the book yet, but I am checking in because I do have some thoughts and I want to share those before I finish it, even though they're not spoiler or anything like that. So I just kind of want to check in with where I'm at versus where I was before starting this book. This is what I'm talking about. This is the book. I thought I was prepared going into a book about a dragon as a love interest, especially a smutty romance book. I was not prepared. First of all, he has a snake tongue. I don't even need to say anything else. I'm just gonna say that and then just let it hang, because speaking I'm terrible. Speaking of just letting it hang, I want to share with you what happened last night while I'm reading this book. So my boyfriend knows I'm reading these because he knows I'm doing this vlog, and he keeps checking in and he's like, how's it going? Like, how are the dragons? Like, what's up? You know, like curious, because I'm curious, right? I'm approaching this with the mentality that I'm doing this for science. Sometimes you have to do things you don't necessarily maybe want to do, or maybe you don't think are the best things for you to do, and that's because your scientific mind is telling you you need to know what will happen. For me, my scientific mind is really, really interested in what's going to go on with this dragon. So for science, I've been reading this. And my boyfriend is very interested in how this is going to go because he knows me very well. I'm just going to say, last night I interrupted my own reading experience so that I could check in with my boyfriend and tell him, I reacted in real time, and I'm pretty sure I like gasped, and my boyfriend's like, what? What happened? I said, he has two. Like, and my boyfriend laughs and he's like, oh yeah, snakes have two too. That's normal. First of all, I didn't know that about snakes. I don't really like snakes, no offense. I have phobia, so I'm not really big into the whole snake thing. I didn't know that. I didn't expect that going into this. And now, again, for science, I'm really interested in how this is going to work, because they mention that that is a thing, but it wasn't like in the heat of the moment that it was mentioned. It was just like our main character girl, she noticed it while he was wearing pants. I don't know if you can tell, my face is getting warmer and I'm blushing. I am not the person to be doing this. I'm reconsidering this entire vlog. I don't know what I've gotten myself into. I'm a lot scared. We're gonna see how it goes. I have about, I think, a little under half to go. Let me double check. Yeah, I'm on page 109. The book is just under 200 pages, so I'm gonna fly through the rest of this pretty quickly. And as you can see, I actually tabbed something, which I honestly don't even remember what I tabbed. Hang on, let me double check. Oh, I do remember what I tagged. So I will say, despite how smutty and like wild this is as a theme, there are a couple of things that are actually really relevant to like modern society, which I was not expecting. I was expecting to just go into this and, you know, see some dragon stuff, or read some dragon stuff. But there's actually like a whole plot, and what's really cool is that at the beginning of this they have like this council sort of thing, and they briefly introduce a couple of other characters, like these other lords of different territories, and one of them is like this succubus woman, and she looks like she's made of like smoke and fire, which sounds so cool. And then another one is like this watery guy with tentacles, and when they got to him and started explaining him, I realized that the people they're introducing are the creatures or the lords or whatever of the series. So that's really cool. They are all connected. Obviously they didn't like, you actually, this girl, you even meet her sort of very briefly, just for like a moment. And I didn't realize, they don't even tell you her name in this one. She's just like a girl dressed in a certain color, and they're at an auction, and the different lords pick them, which I know how that sounds, and it is how it sounds, but it's, the girls are supposedly entering these bargains willingly with these bargainer demons, and I've got to question how willing they could be, considering in this one the whole reason she's trying to enter a bargain with the demon is because she's trying to escape an extremely abusive relationship, which I don't know if that makes her totally willing in the way that they're trying to explain it. Like, it seems like she's kind of like stuck between a rock and a hard place at that point, but I'm just going with it for the sake of the story and reading it. So again, the thing that I thought was interesting is because they do mention a couple of times because of the relationship that she came from, and that's something that I have experience with. So reading this for me was very interesting. And then there was this one line, again, the one thing that I tabbed in here so far. So I do want to just mention that there's like a thing about a gun in here first, so if that's like upsetting for you, sorry. She says, I have no faith that I'm capable of murder, let alone that the justice system would land on my side. All of their grace seems to be saved for the predators themselves, which, yeah. And she's talking about her abusive husband and how, like, if she were capable, she would want to take things into her own hands, but she knows that she would just be at the mercy of the law and they would not fall on her side, most likely, which I think is very interesting commentary, just considering how things work right now with women in the Me Too movement, and how women are not believed unless they're like the perfect victim. And I don't know, I just thought it was really interesting, and I didn't expect that, anything about that, like even such a small little thing from something like this. It took me by surprise. So I'm gonna read the rest, check back in. I'll probably talk a little bit more about the plot when I come back, but we'll see. Okay, so I just finished this. It's been about an hour. I actually tabbed a second thing in here, so that was again surprising. For scientific purposes, if any of my fellow scientists are out there and were curious, this went about as well or the way you would expect it to. It actually had a lot more focus on the world building than I was expecting at all. Like, it is a whole universe, and the other characters from the other books are definitely like very minor characters in this. So it's kind of cool because I know, like, I recognize some of the names here because I did go back and read the back of those just to see who the people were, or the creatures, I guess. So basically the story behind this one is that this girl, her name is Briar Rose. Yeah. They kind of went really hard with the fairy tale thing. So she is trying to escape a marriage with a really abusive guy, and he's just like a total jerk. We don't actually even have to meet him or anything, but we hear about him quite a bit, and she ends up entering a deal with a bargainer demon. He basically tells her that for 7 years she has to go live in this other world, and he will choose a mate for her, and she'll be safe the whole time. She will never have to do anything she doesn't want to willingly do, but she has to give whoever he chooses she has to let them try to seduce her. So it makes sense a little bit in the grand scheme of like the political intrigue and the political stakes and the political stuff that's going on, but just as an explanation for the plot, it just sounds a little silly, I know. still. So this is the dragon leader. He's like the leader of the dragon territory. And so the backstory for him is that the dragons used to mate with humans, but when they decided to stop doing that, they lost the ability to travel between worlds and like some other magical stuff, because apparently breeding with humans and like the commingling of the two, like dragons and humans, made the magic more powerful. And that's the same for several of the other territories and creatures that are in there as well. But we only really deal with they kind of only briefly mention that. We only really deal with the dragon territory here. So as the leader of the dragon territory, this dude is basically like, I need a human lady and she's got to have my baby. And Briar is not into that. She does not want to have a baby. And also she's understandably pretty traumatized from her home situation that she was trying to escape. I will say he's pretty patient. Like, he's a very, as a person, as a dragon, I don't know. He's, you know, I honestly didn't mind him as like a love interest, which sounds wild because again, he's a dragon, but he was just normal. Like, he was a nice dude. There were moments, like, because he's a dragon, there's like this whole territorial thing. So that took up quite a bit of the smutty scenes. Like, it was a lot focused on like how he would get territorial. So they have to like make all these other dragons leave the keep, because if they're around and they look at his new wife, like, I don't know, it's stuff like that. But it was entertaining. I will say that there were a decent amount of smutty bits, but overall I was surprised by how little of that there was compared to the stuff about the world building and the political things. Just considering the fact of how short this is. I'm not sure if the other ones are going to be very similar to that. I'm going to be starting this one next, so we're going to see how that goes. And the other one, how it was about dragons, this one is about kraken. So like all these underwater people are just called kraken, and I'm assuming this guy is like the leader of the kraken. And something that they did mention in the dragon book, something they mentioned here, is that the kraken are the only other species or whatever creature in these lands that suffered as much as the dragons have, because they stopped mating. And it's because they started having like difficulties. So I guess maybe the other creatures are a little bit more human-esque, so it's easier for them. Although one of them is a gargoyle, so how could that be easier? Also, just one more small thing about this that I feel like people need to know. He's green. Like, he's fully green. Like, Shrek status green, like top to bottom. And they mention it. Like, this was a lot. I definitely think that if you were the type of person who likes reading these sorts of books, like smutty sort of fantasy-based creatures and stuff, this will probably be your cup of tea. Like, I feel like you'll like this. There is a lot of talk about pregnancy. Obviously, like, the big thing is that he wants her to get pregnant so that he can help further the dragon people. She doesn't want that initially, and that's like part of their thing where, you know, you have 7 years now and you've got to figure out what you're going to do. That was just a little bit much for me. I didn't really care about all of that stuff. It doesn't do it for me to talk about being pregnant or like getting pregnant as dirty talk. So that there was a lot of that in it, and that, I think that was probably my least favorite thing, just because that's not something that does it for me in that respect. And if that's something for you and that's like one of your things, I'm not trying to shame anybody at all, just to be super clear here. I'm just saying, for me specifically, that was something that I was reading and I was just like, no thank you. But other people who might like that would probably like that part of this then, because it's a very big focus. He really wants to get her with child. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna start reading the other one, and then I will check back in after that and see how this is going. Can you tell that I'm the most excited for the tentacle one? Like, I don't know. It's just so, and it's underwater, which seems, I'm just curious and I want to see how this is going to go. So let's get into it. Hey, so, okay, I just finished reading this, and, and in a very surprising turn of events, I gave this 5 stars, so, yeah. This was like, the main character in this, Catalina, was like wildly relatable for me. I did not expect it, and I don't know what to do with that. So you can see too, like, I tabbed this up so much and I highlighted a bunch of things in it. It was just so good. I wasn't expecting that. And they're not even like dirty things. I didn't even highlight the dirty things. Like, there was just actually like such good stuff and like so many good lines. Like, let me see. Okay, so like at one point the girl ends up getting like the bends because she comes up from the water like too deep. She was too deep and she came up too quickly. And the Kraken King, Thane, he didn't know that that was a thing for her, so she was inadvertently harmed because she almost died. But he didn't mean to do it, like they just didn't know that it would happen. So then later when they have to talk to like the bargainer demon who set this whole thing up, they tell him, like they explain what happened, and then the bargainer demon says, intentions matter less than the result. You caused harm no matter what you meant to do. And I thought that was like such a good point and so important. Okay, also, and then so our main character Catalina, she's like had a pretty rough life where people are not very nice to her all the time, or they get sick of her, or they tell her she's like too much to handle, which again, so relatable. So there was one part where she's talking about that and she's like, so I embrace that. If I'm too much for them, they can choke on me. Yes, girl, yes. Like, so good. I love this one. I can't believe I gave this 5 stars. Like, I do not give 5 stars very often. Like, I've probably only done it like 3 or 4 times so far this year, and this is my 50th book, by the way. So yeah. The next one I'm going to be reading is also in the series, and it's also very small. I'm going to finish it today. It is The Demon's Bargain, and these are following other side characters. So again, like this whole series features characters that are in the other books, but only briefly. Like they have very small parts. So I'm actually really excited about this one because the main character, we've seen them in both of the other books, but they're not like a focal point. So we're going to see. I will check in after. Hello from the car. So today is officially Valentine's Day and we are going to get some stuff. We're not really doing a lot this year. We're moving soon, so we can't really do a lot to celebrate, but we are getting a $10 pizza from Papa Murphy's to celebrate because it's a heart-shaped pizza and we do it every year. And I think we're also going to maybe like watch a movie or something at home. I'm also going to be finishing my romance reads books, so, oh, we're just coming, so check in later. Hello, good morning. It's currently 6:30 in the morning, which is extremely early, but today was a day I had to take my boyfriend to work, so yeah. I'm going to wake up a little bit and have caffeine, and then today I'm planning on starting Legends and Lattes, which my boyfriend has actually already been reading through Scribd, and he's almost done with it now, and I feel bad because I was supposed to be reading this and then he's reading it before me, but I'm glad he's reading and I'm glad Scribd is helping. So I'm going to be doing that today. I'm going to be starting Legends and Lattes, and then I'm also going to be baking some granola because I ran out of my homemade granola, and I'm picky and it's the only kind I like. So I'm going to be making more granola, and I thought it would be cute because I know they're like sweet treats or something, or like coffee and stuff in the book. My boyfriend has informed me that there is no granola, but I'm gonna do it anyway. so I will check back in after I have woken up a bit and probably fixed this. Not fixed. And then probably like put makeup on and do my hair and stuff like that. So I will see you in a little bit. Alright, so here's the granola. I'm about to bake it. They don't look super different right now because the lighting is a little bit weird in here, but this is the brownie nutty one. It's really good. It smells like actual brownies when it's baking. This is the autumn spice fall pumpkin one. I guess pumpkin spice, I don't know. The only difference really is that this one has chocolate and peanut butter and this one doesn't, and this one has pumpkin seeds. At the end, once it bakes and cools, the pumpkin spice one actually gets a couple more ingredients. It gets some chia seeds and some dried cranberries. So we're gonna do that at the end. But once this one finishes baking, it is done and it's ready to eat. Okay, so they have to bake for like 20 to 25 minutes and then I'm going to take it out and I will show you the little bitty things that I add to the pumpkin spice one, but the other one will be good and ready once it cools and then we're gonna eat it. Well, I'm gonna eat it, but you're gonna see me eat it. Well, I'll show you when they're done. Hey, hi, hello, I'm back. Okay, so I've got granola in the oven. I'm gonna start reading this right now. And I guess I didn't actually say what this is about, but I'm going into this not knowing what it's about really, other than that there's like an orc and they have some sort of like little cafe bakery thing. And it's supposed to be very cozy and like not very dramatic or high stakes or like scary or thrilling or anything. It's just pretty basic, so I'm ready to have a cozy time. This one I added the chia seeds and the dried cranberries to. It's so good. It smells like just like fall. And then this one is the chocolate peanut butter brownie nut granola. And you can see that this one's like very crumbly. But then this one, look at that. It's got like actual clusters. Look at this big nut cluster. So good. Can we focus on the nuts, please? Focus on the nuts. Thank you. Wow, delicious.
Hey, hi, hello. So, it's been about 5 days now, I think, since I checked in, and if you can't tell from how I sound, I got sick. So it's not COVID, which is good. I've taken like 3 tests and they've all been negative, but I am just really ill. I have like a cough and my nose is stuffy and it's just gross and awful and terrible. So, I've been waiting to feel better so that I can finish this vlog, but I'm impatient and I don't want to wait anymore. So I figured I would just try to get this done. I only have a little bit to say. This is going to be short, and I'm sorry that the end to this is so janky and chaotic, but it is what it is. Sometimes you get sick. Okay, so for the last book in the Monster Smut series that I was reading, The Demon's Bargain, I finished this one about 4 or 5 days ago, and I really liked it. It was very different to the first two. This one was a little bit shorter, but I liked both of the main characters in it, and the smutty bits were fun. That's what I'm here for, really. So, yeah. I will say that of the 3, this one probably has the most actual plot, despite how short it is. The dragon one, the plot mostly centered on making the girl his bride and continuing the kingdom that way. And then the Kraken one had like a very big subplot about healing after losing somebody and guilt and stuff like that. This one has like a whole mystery death fight competition sort of thing to it. The main character is a witch, and something of hers was stolen by her ex. So this person, the demon, they're now gonna help her. And it gets very spicy very quickly. I loved it. It was so much fun. There was stuff in here that normally I don't see done in a lot of romance novels, especially like smutty ones. Like very inclusive sort of stuff. So I thought that was cool. I really honestly, like, this little series has like blown me away. Like, it's been so much fun to read. And I actually already have this one by the same author, and I've had this one for a while, and I just hadn't read it. So now that I've finished these, I'm absolutely going to be reading Neon Gods, because I love her smutty writing. I don't know what to say. And then for my fantasy sort of romance reads, I finished Legends and Lattes, which I loved this. This was so cute. It was very like cozy fantasy. The romance was very light, I will say. It mostly had to do with the main character, Viv, trying to start a business, and the business is a little like coffee shop, and it has to do with kind of like a found family sort of vibe and the people that she meets along the way. I really loved it. I thought it was super cute. The way that the menu keeps getting like built and expanded upon with like new drinks and stuff, I thought that was so much fun. And then the names they gave to things was a lot of fun. Viv's love interest is a succubus character called Tandri, and I really liked her too because she was kind of like not super nice and not very like easy to know, and I typically like when a character is kind of like grumpy like that, so I really liked her. I like very like guarded sort of characters. I guess I just relate to it. I don't know, but this is really fun. My boyfriend and I baked cinnamon rolls to go with this because I had been reading it and I had already done the granola, but the more they talked about like how cinnamony and sweet and delicious they were, I needed them, so we baked some. And they were great. And it made the reading experience a lot better too because I finished the book while eating them, so it was pretty fantastic. I loved it. I think there's supposed to be a second one coming out in this series as well, so that it's actually like a series or maybe a duology or something. I'm not really sure, but it's supposed to be out later this year, I think, and I'm very excited for that as well. Okay, and then last up, yes. I guess I'm probably like one of the only people who hasn't read this series or any of Sarah J. Maas's series. So I decided to dive right in, and as part of like the fantasy romance thing, I decided to read ACOTAR, the first book. I will say that this has a lot of setup and like world building and stuff, so it's not super romancy. I will also say I'm only like 100 and something pages in. I meant to finish this before filming, but again, I've been sick, so I'm just getting this recording over with so I can get this video posted, and I'm gonna finish this after. But if you consider that cheating, sorry, I don't know. I'm doing what I can. I do really like this so far, and I am going to be finishing it. I'm going to be reading the rest of the series. I love fairy stories, and I love like especially when the fairies are like kind of mean or scary or dangerous or powerful. It's always really cool. They're kind of like vampires, but like fairies and like lethal fairies and like vampires and stuff just do it for me. I don't know. I'm not like a big werewolf girl, but something about like the fae and vampires always gets me. So this being very like lethal fae centric is very cool. I'm not really sure who the love interest is supposed to be because there's like two male characters and then the main character, which is a girl. So far, we have the main character, Feyre, and then we have like two fairy men, and they have like taken her, or one of them's taken her. I don't know. I'm sick. I'm not going to get into the whole synopsis. I will be doing a reading vlog specifically for this series because, again, I'm like one of the only people who hasn't read it so far. So I do want to share thoughts. It will probably be spoiler free. And then maybe I'll do like a spoiler one on Patreon. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm really liking it so far. It reminds me a lot of this book Tithe I read when I was like 16 by Holly Black. And I know that Holly Black currently still does write a lot of like fae-centric novels. And she's very popular for her like Cruel Prince series, I think it is now. But when I was a teenager, the books that Holly Black wrote were like the modern fairy series. And it had like Tithe and then like Valiant. I don't super remember the titles of the other ones, but Tithe was my favorite book for years. And I hadn't read other books with like fairy people and stuff like that where it was like dangerous and scary, but like romantic. I don't know. And I've always really liked that. I always really liked that series. So discovering more series like that now as an adult has been really fun. So this is the last book of this vlog. Again, didn't finish it before filming. Sorry, but as you can see, I've tabbed a lot and I'm only like 100 pages in. So obviously like I've got a lot of thoughts and there's a lot here that I'm going to talk about when I get to the vlog for this. So yeah.
Okay, so that was my first experience reading fantasy-ish romance. It's been wild. I'm just gonna say it has been wild. I went into this not knowing how I was gonna feel, and honestly, like, I was pleasantly surprised. I'm just gonna say it. Apparently, fantasy smut and romance is a thing that I like, which honestly, I could have guessed. That seems right up my alley. Like, it does seem like something that I would have vibed with, knowing me as a person, and I do know myself. So, yeah. That's something that we can do little check marks for. I'll figure out how to maybe put checks on here. For monster romance and fantasy romance. Wins for me. Hopefully the rest of the series is gonna go just as well as this one has. If you have any suggestions for tropes that I should check out or books that are for specific tropes, not for these because I'm probably not going to do another one in this exact, thing for a while, but if they're in different tropes or different romance books or anything like that, please let me know. This one has gone so well that I'm kind of very much excited for the next few, but also now very worried because I can't imagine the others are going to go as well as this did. Like, I gave 5 stars to a Kraken smut book. Who would have thought? Do I even know myself actually then? Whew. I guess I'm gonna learn a lot about myself in this, so thanks for coming along for the ride. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, thank you for being here in general. I know these are kind of chaotic and I know that I'm a little bit all over the place just because I have a lot of ideas and I want to do them all. So thanks for hanging out. Bye.